So this is World Scientist Forums. We have gathered some of the global scientists from Africa, from Japan, from France, and from CGIAR. We heard that science innovations will be so critical in building or strengthening the resilient food systems. So this session is designed to bring the top scientists here to debate how we can use science innovations to drive the food system to provide resilient, healthy, nutritious foods for everybody in the world, so nobody is left behind. So firstly, I wanted to invite President Sun Zhixin to give some opening remarks to welcome. He himself is a top wheat breeder. Just let you know the information, one of the wheat breeders from Canada. In Canada, you maybe only have 10 wheat breeders. 10 years ago, when he came to China, he saw 2,000 wheat breeders. And President Sun Zhixin is one of the top wheat breeders, in addition to his sort of a leadership job at the China Agriculture University. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Shen Gufan. Good morning and welcome to this very key forums for the scientists. So we heard just the previous sessions, we realized and we have came to the common consensus. Innovation is vital for the agri-food system transformation and also building more resilient agri-food systems. So this is a WAFI, we are focusing on building resilient agriculture for the agri-food system transformation. So realizing the fact, such as geopolitical tension, intensify climate change, and deepening human health challenges. And we strongly, even deeply realized building more resilient global food systems has become a core issue for human safety and sustainable development. Science and technology innovation should serve as a key driver for the resilience of agri-food systems globally. From climate smart agriculture, as we discussed many years, biotechnology, digital technology innovation. So we strongly believe such innovation in cutting-edge technology would provide the assurance for the current and future agri-food system transformation to adapt to the climate changes. However, we have to also realize isolated effort is insufficient to fully utilize science and technology power in addressing these very complicated problems and challenges. This situation has to let us rethink how to fully utilize science and technology in addressing such global, we never met challenges to make a more resilient and sustainable agri-food systems. So to this end, this year's WAFI2025 will this morning at this event for the World Agri-Food Scientists Forum. As we heard for the previous sessions, we have a common consensus, innovation, especially for the technology innovation, will be very vital and essential to build a resilient agri-food system. As Professor Xing says, I'm a wheat breeder. In 1989, when I got an opportunity, funding for a pioneer company to study in America, I chose to go to Colorado State University because as a professor who is working on wheat, and he's more specialized on wheat to tolerate high temperature. So I'm very amazing. What is the meaning of high temperature to the wheat production? When I get to Fort Collins, Colorado State, they have a very ambitious program to understanding how is the genetic control of heat tolerance in wheat. Then when I came back in 1990, so I initiated the really first project in China to understanding how wheat can adapt to the very drought and high temperatures for the terminal stage of wheat growth. So I'm recalling because my career in working for wheat heat tolerance, it started with my study in the United States. So for this meeting, why are we calling for the international collaboration? Because high temperature and drought, for those extreme events caused by climate change, it's a global challenge. And also I'm very happy, my teams working very closely with Summit and also with France, French Academy of Agriculture, because 3 days ago I met with President of French Academy of Agriculture. I told the President, French Academy of Agriculture give me more than 200 wheat germplants, international germplants. We evaluated in China, many of them are good in heat tolerance. So it's just an example, we have to make a deep understanding how with the new wheat varieties can be getting more resilient, more tolerant to the high temperature. And by realizing this goal, we need a real international collaboration. For example, germplasms. That's a key for the new variety. So this event is very important and it's vital and a very key component for innovation. So please enjoy your conference and hope this conference will get new high level for understanding technology innovation. Thank you very much.
So challenges have no border, like a climate change. Solutions also has no border. Science has no border. That's key messages President Sun Chixin gave to us. So next speaker is Sandra Minak. She is the chief scientist of CGIR. She has very wide experience as a scientist with Cote d'Ivoire, Improper. Then she has even set up his own company. So she has experience in research, in leading research, in setting up business, and is working with farmers. So Sandra, please.
Good morning, everyone, from Beijing, China. This is my second time here, and really, as always, feel very welcome by the people of China, but as well as many colleagues that are here. Prestigious colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. So, as we heard from Shengfeng, we are really we are one planet, there is no borders. And we have very important challenges in front of us. let's just think about a few data here. As we speak today, 700 million people are facing hunger in this planet. And the problem is just going to get worse, because we expect if the planet becomes 2 centigrades warmer than now, there'll be an additional 189 million people who are going to face that. And if it does go 2 more centigrades up, then we are talking about 8.8 billion people who will face hunger. So we know that we have faced in the past many of situations where we had to deal with hunger. And science brought innovations. That's sort of, we know the stories of the Green Revolution. Some of our founders of research and founders of this revolution, like Dr. Borlaug and many others, who actually made a difference in lifting many, many millions of people out of hunger. The reality is that what we face in front of us will probably take us again to this situation if we don't watch. But the good news is that science have brought solutions in the first time and continues bringing solutions to face this. And today we're going to actually discuss and hear about many options, many technologies and many different solutions that can really address some of these very big problems. That's what excites me as the chief scientist of CGIAR. CGIAR is really positioned in the tropical belt of the world. So we have many centers, 13 centers across the globe, sitting in the places that are going to be facing the biggest problems. So we are well positioned to address that, but we cannot do it alone. And I do believe that scientists in many places, many scientists that are sitting in this room today, can help to really join this mission of addressing these problems. So there is a lot to be done in front of us, and let's not forget that we cannot rest a minute. We need to do that. So I'm really looking forward for this section today, the session that we will do. And I think, it will really bring to life some of these innovations and some of these possibilities. And you see me at the end again. I'm going to hopefully summarize what the session will bring, and looking forward to a very good discussion. Thank you so much for all coming today and for everyone watching us live as well. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Sandra. So CGIAR is the largest international agricultural research organization in the world. As a chief scientist, so she has a responsibility to set up the programs, to lead the programs, to evaluate the programs, to build the partnership. Thank you, Sandra. So we are looking forward to work with you from CAU, from China, or from Africa. Now we go to the keynote speech session. Our first speaker is the President Yi Zhongyi, the Jiangsu Academy of Agricultural Sciences. Well, I'm from that province, so maybe a conflict of interest. I shouldn't say that. It's one of the strongest provincial academy in China. Long history and a long sort of a collaboration experience, rich experience with other countries. So please come. Let's welcome him.
非常感谢孙校长、樊老师，各位上午好。我今天和大家分享的题目是数字化赋能韧性食物系统。其实我想讲3个问题：一是智慧智能是未来产业发展的趋势和方向；第二，目前来讲，数据成为制约智慧智能发展的核心的要素；那么第三呢，我们确实要转变我们的科研组织方式，要有新的创新的范式。美国伯克利分校的德隆经济学家德隆曾经有一个研究，他说，人类97%的财富是在过去250年间创造的， 那么换句话说，就是人类用了0.01%的时间，创造了97%的财富。我们分析一下，其实这过去200多年和4次工业革命高度吻合。从1776年的第一台能应用的蒸汽机发明以后，我们进入了机械化、电气化、自动化、信息化和智能化时代。那么这些技术的更新和变化迭代，推动了经济社会的发展。当然，有一点我们不能否认，上世纪初的以泰勒为代表的科学管理也是推动经济社会发展非常重要的一个要素。所以我个人有一个观点，如果说科学技术是第一生产力，那么科学管理一定是第二生产力。大家都知道，去年的物理奖和化学奖诺贝尔奖授予了 AI， 这是不是在表明 AI 正在走进科学的中心？那么未来我们做生物育种的专家，也不一定是纯粹的学育种的专家。那么当然，今年的物理奖授予了3位量子科学的专家。我们可以做一个大胆的判断，未来5到6年，或者是10年以后，量子计算机在广泛应用以后，那么我们的算力水平会得到爆炸式的增长，蛋白结构的解析可能就是瞬间的事情。大家都知道，我们农业的技术有4大底盘技术：材料技术、能源技术、生物技术和数字技术。但是我们数字技术3大核心的要素主要是数据、算力和算法，其中算力是核心。当然，如果是我们量子计算机出来以后，算力的问题又破解了人类很大的一个基础的条件建设的问题。习近平主席有一个判断，他提出现在叫新质生产力。其实人类在任何一个社会阶段都有一种新的生产力，相应的新质生产力、新的生产力。为什么把新的生产力变为新质生产力？那这个质它一定是一个飞跃。怎么去理解？我个人的理解，我觉得很简单，它就是从体力替代到智力替代。如果是机械化、自动化、电气化实现的是体力替代，那么未来的智能化一定实现的是智力替代，这一定是一种质的飞跃。好，未来农业的发展一定是数据驱动的。那么在智慧农业或者是人工智能这些方面，我们核心的这个因素是什么？是数据。大家都知道，现在我们的智慧农业应用实际上很少，盆景多，风景少，看的人多，用的人少，研究的多，落地的少。其核心的原因当然有执行器，没有整体解决方案，但核心的原因还是我们的模型，就是缺少一颗智慧的大脑。所以智慧农业也好，人工智能也好，这核心的3个要素是算法、数据和模型。那么算法就是计算的方法，它和数据是为模型服务的。最近1-2年嘛，我们很多的机构都发布了大模型。其实我个人认为，除了大语言模型以外，其他都不能称为大模型。唯一的大模型只是大语言模型。大家知道，语言是1维的，或者是加上一种画面，它是2维的，它是生成式的，它所生成的是物理世界没有的，是1维的，所以相对来讲比较容易。但是农业生产当中的模型，尤其是跨产业的这些模型，它是3维的，因为我们的对象是生命体，如果加上时间轴，那么它是4维的，所以这样的模型来讲也是非常难的，是非常困难的。所以我们说现在的模型，他们之所以说叫大模型，因为是多模态的。其实大模型最重要的一个特征，一定它的泛化能力和繁衍能力，它是不是具有很强的泛化能力？所以我说现在我们的一些模型其实都是垂直模型，即便是垂直模型，在我们生产当中应用的还是比较少。那么模型是怎么形成的？ 大家都知道是机理模型、经验模型和数据模型，最后融合形成，就是我们垂直模型或者是讲模型。这其中我们的数据模型是最主要的，我们甚至可以说我们的模型是数据跑出来的，没有3000次到4000次全生命周期的干净的数据，它不可能跑出模型。所以为什么我们高校科研院有很多的老师他生成不出来模型？因为他做算法研究的时候，只是在实验室形成一些数据，他做算法研究可以，但是他不能推动我们的模型的建立。当然，这个数据从本体的、大气的和土壤的就非常复杂。我们江苏农科院的团队用了6年的时间，做了摄氏番茄的数据97个指标，我们已经上市了，这个数据已经上市了，花了3、4年的时间。其实这种数据量是非常之大的，才能训练出模型。好了，我们知道数据是一个非常重要的一个要素。那么，其实对我们来讲，我们未来的科技创新范式就要发生变化。未来的科技创新，从需求端来讲，应该是基于场景驱动的创新，一定是提供全产业链的技术解决方案，而不是一种单项技术。第二，它一定是从创新端这个角度来讲，它一定是多学科、多主体的交叉融合。不是某一个团队、某一个创新的主体能解决的问题。第三，它一定是从工具端来讲，是生物技术和信息技术的融合，这是未来创新的范式。我举一个简单的例子，这是我们过去6年的时间，我们始终做的一个项目，就是我们摄氏果蔬的智慧化生产。我们提的场景加链是全链条的技术解决方案。那么首先我们分析这个场景，我们用4句话来对我们这个场景，我们创新的目标叫替代人工经验，减少人工投入，辅助人工决策，消除人工偏差。这是我们这个场景创新的目标。然后基于这个目标，我们形成了一个链式的技术解决方案。那么这里边有水肥控制、环境控制、能源控制、采摘机器人，包括我们后面品牌的打造、商业模式，乃至于我们科普的场景的打造。这是我们这个链条。那么在这个链条上，我们需要解决的一些关键技术，包括时序数据的清洗、多元一个数据的融合，包括我们知识图谱的构建等等，这就是我们要突破的一些关键的技术。所以我们突破了一些关键的核心的算法和技术。那么最后我们也形成了场景加应用的一种模式。我们智慧农业，我们要在小农户，因为大家都知道，中国97%的主体是小农户。那么他们对信息化的掌握的能力相对来讲比较弱，技术采纳能力也比较弱。我们要探索一种新的商业模式和技术模式，让他们能真正应用到我们现在的一些技术。这里边有一个模式，我们可以为这些农户提供全周期的、全过程的生产管理，最后提供给他的就是一个优质的产品。那么他必须给我每一年1亩地4万块钱的收入，是给我们团队的。大家都知道，我们是从这里边获得了一些经济的收益，其实这不是主要的，主要的是什么？是我们从全生产过程当中获取了大量的真实的生产的数据，那么这些数据回来以后，又来训练我的模型，使我的模型更成熟。当一个垂直的模型，如果它的成熟度达到60%、70%以后，它一定是有一种强化自学能力。它很多的算法模型可能就是一种生成式的，但是现在这种差距还很远，需要我们研究不同的算法，来最后形成我们的这个模型。包括我们还要做好怎么产得好，更要卖得好，包括科普的课程的设计和我们科普产品的一些设计等等，都是我们研究的范畴。当然，另外有一个很重要的，我们技术创新有2件事情非常重要。在数字化时代，第一，我们对场景的理解，能够准确的理解这个场景是我们创新的前提。未来我们科技创新很多的工作可能都会是 AI 去做，但是有一点对科学家来讲是必须自己做的，提出问题，形成思路，这是未来我们科学家要做的事情。那么第二，我们的科学研究要回归第一性原理。我举一个非常简单的例子，我们现在做拖拉机的一些智能化改造过程当中，就不能按照传统的机械模式去做，我们要摒弃传统的这种思维的惯性和路径依赖， 彻底颠覆传统机械的这种结构，采取分布式电驱动模块化的软件架构来开发我们的拖拉机，因为它就是一个动力平台，所以要回归第一性原理。这是在科普中国上我有个10期的一个视频，但我这儿不播放了，大家有兴趣可以看，这样才能适配不同的这个应用的场景。当然，数据化赋能我们食品系统有很多的工作可以做，比如说我们在全球粮食价格波动、气候风险加剧的背景下 ，AI 可以将宏观数据智能的转化为我们决策的工具，提供为政府形成决策。我们要把很多历史的一些知识能够转化成为 AI 助手，来服务我们的小农户，让他们真正理解自己的田块，获得农业的建议，等等，这些都是我们在有韧性的食物系统建设过程当中我们可以做的。正好还有一点点时间，做半分钟的广告。本人呢尝试从事科技管理，我有一个个人微信公众号叫管理3人行，每个星期3发一篇文章，已经是8年的时间，欢迎大家关注，我们更多的一起去讨论、去交流。我就汇报到这里，谢谢大家。
Well, thank you, President Yi. I think the digital revolution, or AI, and modern biotechnology are like two wings to drive the food system innovations. If you can combine AI and modern biotechnology, obviously, we will fly higher and we will fly faster. So thank you once again, President Yi. Now, our next speaker is Jean-Francois, the Vice President of the French Agriculture Research Institute. Let's welcome him.
So thank you for your kind invitation to this wonderful WAFI conference. What I will try to do with you today is to explain a modeling approach we have about how we could reach resilience in the world agri-food systems by 2050. And there are some framing questions for global food system sustainability. Can we still reach the targets which are set by the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, and the Paris Agreement on Climate for the global food system? We know we are not on track for 2030, but is it still feasible for 2050? Despite several drivers, including population rise, westernization of diets, climate change, and land degradation, and then through which combinations of responses? And if we do reach the SDG targets in 2050, what would be the implications for world regions? So we have developed a modeling approach to this multidimensional problem with the 5 global drivers. 4 of them I already explained: population, diets, land degradation, climate change. There is a 5th one, which is the use of biomass for bioenergy and biomaterials. And then we have a number of responses that can be applied, dealing with agriculture and bioenergy, dealing with food demand, having, for instance, less food waste, and dealing also with nature-based solutions, both with forestry and other land uses, for instance, reducing emissions from wetlands. So we can consider there are many possibilities within 25 years for the state of the global agri-food system, and we need to reach the SDG-based targets. Actually, you will find targets in 8 of the SDGs concerning the global food system. Obviously, SDG 2, which is zero hunger, but also about health, about climate, about biodiversity, about water, and so on. So we define 8 targets, and those targets also account for the Paris Agreement on Climate and the implication of the global biodiversity framework of the land degradation neutrality. So we developed a model which is fit for purpose. It is covering crops, grasslands, livestock, feed, food, nutrition, energy, land use change, the carbon nitrogen cycles, the greenhouse gas emissions. The model was calibrated for 2010. You can see here on this Sankey diagram the fluxes, both in terms of plant-based, animal-based proteins, greenhouse gas fluxes, nitrogen fluxes. The model was evaluated over 1961-2020. So we can see that it is consistently linking supply and demand for plant and animal-based food and for total food proteins. It is also consistent with the FAO statistics concerning greenhouse gas emissions. So how can we use such a model to understand the possible states of the future global agri-food system? We can take at random values of the drivers and the responses within calibrated boundaries. There are in fact large uncertainties for the future, so we need to test within boundaries at random. So in this way, we get random states of the global agri-food system, and we have 10 million runs per scenario, so a big number of possible states. And we have 4 scenarios crossing the mitigation effort needed for 1.5 degree or 2 degrees Celsius, and testing no land use change or moderate land use change. If you had strong land use change, you would have strong increased deforestation, and it would not be compatible with the SDGs. So we have the definition of a viable state that fits the SDG targets. We define it as having less than 10% distance to each target, and for the mean of the 8 targets, less than 5% distance. And here are our results, showing for a few variables the historic changes. So for instance, if you see here the undernourished population size, it has started to decline. We take only one value per decade. And obviously, if we want to fit the SDGs, we need to have very low chronic undernourishment, so the value here is low. On the other hand, if you see the strong rise in overnourishment leading to overweight and obesity, it has multiplied by 7 since 1961. It needs to go down by about 40% to match the SDGs. You see also that calorie consumption can be stabilized, in fact, in the future. If we turn now to cropland yields, they are here in green. Those cropland yields, they need to increase steadily following the historical trend, but it will be far more difficult given land degradation and climate change. So indeed, we need a lot of innovation there. We need to reduce fertilizers, and you will see that this means increasing biological N fixation and recycling of N. And because we need to have less livestock, the feed proteins go down. Turning to livestock, exactly here you can see the strong rise in the poultry, for instance, pork, and those curves need to be bended down to have less poultry proteins, a bit less pork proteins, despite the population rise, and the same goes for beef and poultry. However, we need to have a rise in the livestock feed conversion efficiency, because we need efficient livestock, even though there might be less livestock in the future, because we need to curve down the greenhouse gas emission, so certainly reducing livestock greenhouse gas emissions, but also the total neat emissions of the agricultural sector. And this is also through carbon sequestration, which means that the neat emissions can be much lower than the gross emissions. The agricultural emissions per calorie have been going down historically, and we need to carry on that decline to get compatible with the Paris Agreement and the SDGs. So is it really feasible when we look at the possible changes in population, in diets, with climate change and land degradation? As I explained, we have a total of 40 million of simulations, and we found only close to 6,000 viable states. We found far less viable states when we have a rise in population approaching 10 billion. It's very difficult to find viable states. Also, when we get a lot of meat consumption because of westernized diets, very difficult. And the land degradation impacts, the stronger they are, the less viable states. The same with climate change impacts, the stronger the climate change impacts, the less the viable states. So indeed, we are facing huge challenges with the changes in the drivers. And some response options stand out. They are really needed. For instance, greenhouse gas abatement in agriculture, so reducing the direct emission of methane and nitrous oxide. We have many options there to do this, but we need to do it. Otherwise, it's very difficult to find some options. And the same goes for soil carbon, carbon sequestration. We need to have this developed, otherwise we will not match the Paris Agreement. Livestock feed conversion needs to go up, and also, in fact, we have no option rather than reducing animal proteins in diets. This is needed to find viable solutions. We can categorize the 12 responses in 3 categories: the agricultural and bioenergy efficiency, the food demand, and the nature-based solutions. And it is quite important to say that in that 3-dimensional space, which is shown here as a triangle, 1 triangle per scenario, you will not find one single dot. One dot is one viable option. You will not find one single dot that is only one category of options. So it is not possible to work only with agriculture and bioenergy, or work only with food demand, or work only with nature-based solutions. The 3 categories of options are indeed needed to get viable states of the food system by 2050. There is another way to look at options that stand out, and this is the way a rise in those options can reduce the distance to the target. So if we increase by 1% one response, how much closer do we get to the targets? Well, if we reduce food waste by 1%, if we increase food waste reduction, so if we reduce more the food waste by 1%, then we get closer to the target by more than 3%. So food waste reduction stands out, and also soil carbon stands out. These are some of the important options. So I told you I would show you the changes in the food system by 2050. This is on the right of the graph compared to 2010 on the left. And you see, in 2010, we have very strong emissions from deforestation. These have to disappear in 2050. Otherwise, there is no way we can find a viable state. There are also some additional fluxes here, which are in blue, and that are actually carbon removal through bioenergy and carbon sequestration. And we have also some which are with forest and other land use mitigation, and other with the soil carbon. You can see that the livestock size, which is this square, is reduced, and the fluxes associated to livestock in terms of emission are also less. And you see here that we reduce the fertilizer use, and we have more in green of biological end fixation. So there are indeed many changes that are required, and this will be difficult. And the final message I have is about the regional implication. So you could think, is this logical to say that we will reduce the animal food proteins, given that in sub-Saharan Africa, for instance, there is not enough animal food proteins. So that's where we need to have a convergence across world regions. Otherwise, you will not have regionally the SDGs met. We have this convergence needed, which means that, in fact, it is quite compatible that you increase the animal proteins in sub-Saharan Africa by 49% for the animal proteins fraction, 64% for the poultry. And on the other hand, in Europe and North America, it has to go down. For instance, -8% for the animal protein fraction, 34% for poultry. And in East Asia, the changes are quite moderate. They are around plus 14% for animal proteins, -10% for poultry. So we have to get this differentiation and this convergence across world regions to have a chance to reach the SDGs in those regions. So here are my take-home messages. Yes, we can still reach the targets set by the SDGs in 2050, but as you can understand, very urgent action is needed. We do have problems with the drivers. We need to control climate change. We need to control land degradation. We need to be very careful about the westernization of diets, also for health concerns. And if there is a high population, it will be more difficult. And we have indeed to think in a systemic way. We need to integrate agricultural efficiency, demand side, like reduction food waste, changes in diets, and nature-based solutions. There's no way out of this. So we need to have coherence across policies to get there. And we need to have convergence across world regions in diets to reach the SDGs at regional scale. So my message would be, yes, we can reach the targets, but we need to have country-specific scenarios. Remember, we have those national pathways that are developed under the UN Food System Transformation, then we need to bring this with local initiatives and to bring together the national and international goals to meet a sustainable future for our world agri-food system. Thank you.
Well, can we achieve the resilience of food system by 2050? Jean-François said, yes or no, depending on what do we do. And this modeling exercise is very important to give us a framework and to assess where we are, where we should go. I know there are many modelers, even including our friend from Japan, Osama Koyama. And here in my group, we are also doing the similar sort of a modeling exercise, more at the country level. As you said, country level pathway, country level modeling will be important. At IPRI, CGIAR, they are also doing modeling. So let's all work together, country-based, global model, then really assess our progress, look for sort of different pathways to achieve resilience by 2050. I think we can. We should be more positive, optimistic. Thank you. Once again, let's give a round of applause to the two keynote speakers, and they bring very important dimensions to this forum, particularly digital AI revolution, the modeling, bring all this together, policy, technologies, diets, convergences. Thank you. Now, we will have two round tables. One is on the role of science and technology. This round table will be moderated by Vanya Azevedo, the director of CGIAR, Jim Banks. The second panel will be moderated by Kevin Chan, the director of East and Central Asia Office of International Food Policy Research Institute. He's also the chair, or the lead chair, or chair professor at Zhejiang University. The second panel very much focused on how global agriculture research institutions can collaborate to leverage technology. Okay, so now I will hand it over to Vanya. Welcome, Vanya.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our session. We saw very interesting presentations about science, and now we have a very high-level panel that will discuss how science, what is the role of science and technology in building resilient food systems. How can we bring all that knowledge and technology back to the farmers? How we address the differences between the countries, between the regions, not one size fits all, but we are all here with the same purpose, to build a more resilient and sustainable agri-food system. So to start our session, I'm going to invite the group that will be here at the round table. I will first invite Dr. Himanshu Pathak, Director General of the International Crops Research Institute for the Semi-Arid Tropics, ICRISAT. Dr. Himanshu served as Secretary of the Department of Agricultural Research and Education in the Government of India, and was also the Director General of the Indian Council of Agricultural Research, ICAR. Thank you and welcome, Dr. Himanshu. Secondly, I would like to invite Dr. Osamu Koyama, President of the Japan International Research Center for Agricultural Research, JIRCAS. Welcome, Dr. Osamu. Dr. Osamu worked for the Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries of Japan. He has been engaged in econometric analysis of global food situation at the FAO and also at JIRCAS, and has lectured many Japanese universities. Welcome, Dr. Osamu. The third panelist is Dr. Yuan Zhong. She's a professor at the College of Agronomy and Biotechnology in China Agricultural University. Welcome, Dr. Yan. She was selected as one of the national 10,000 young top talents of China. Congratulations. And the Clarivate Analytics Global High-Cited Scientists. A very special talent that will discuss science with us today. Fourth panelist is Dr. Wei Tong, the chief scientist of the Beijai Research. Welcome, Dr. Wei Tong. He's a leading bioinformatics scientist at Beijai Research in Shenzhen and principal investigator at the State Key Laboratory of Genome and Multiomics Technologies. And last but not least, Dr. Prasanna. Dr. Prasanna is a distinguished scientist and regional director for Asia at CIMMYT and managing director of Borlaug Institute for South Asia. Well-known scientist with multiple national and international awards. Welcome, Dr. Prasanna, and thank you for joining us. So, science and technology in building resilient food systems. We have high-level scientists, director and president of institutions, working on agriculture for many years and with a lot of intelligence and knowledge and creativity. So I would like to start the session by giving each one of you maximum 5 minutes. I don't know if can be so hard as Dr. Chengen was with his first panel today, but I'll do my best because we have some questions also that we want to discuss after that. So I would like to start with the ladies first. So Dr. Zhongyan, could you please address the topic of science and technology and how this meets with your research? Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, everyone. It's a great honor to join this roundtable as a young scientist. I'm Yuan Zong from China Agricultural University, and my research focuses on developing plant genome editing technologies and exploring their innovative applications in crop improvement. So I would like to talk about the role of plant genome editing technologies in building resilient crops. As we all know, in recent years, crop breeding has faced big challenges due to climate change, extreme weather events, and increasing pest and disease pressures. So there is an urgent need to have breakthroughs in advancing breeding technologies to overcome limitations of traditional breeding, particularly in long breeding cycles, low efficiency, and difficulty in stacking multiple desirable traits. So I think genome editing technology is exactly this game changer. Genome editing technologies, especially CRISPR-Cas systems, has been a powerful tool that enable precise, efficient, and predictable modifications in plant genomes. It is not just lab innovation, it is also a transformative force to build the resilient crops. I will give 2 examples. One is in wheat. When editing all 6 copies of wheat MLO gene, and along with about 300 kilobase deletion, the resulted wheat varieties can maintain crop growth and yield, while conferring robust powdery mildew resistance. And another example is Chinese scientists can use genome editing to de novo domestication wild rice plants. The scientists can preserve wild rice resilience, and at the same time, we can through genome editing technologies to add some designed agronomic traits, such as bigger or larger seeds, or easier harvesting. So we can see we can use the plant genome technologies to create the novel alleles or some new genetic resources that may not exist in nature. And in my own research, I have developed a series of plant genome editing tools across the multiple scale editing, from base substitutions, small DNA and fragment editing, or even larger DNA editing. With these technologies, we have created wheat varieties with herbicide resistance or has some extra nutrition. And I'm looking forward to our technologies can be well applied in other countries. And now we are trying to bigger with chromosome scale engineering or plant synthesis biology. And this is paves the way we can redesign a plant with inner workings. And moving forward to on-demand crops. For instance, we can redesign the wheat or rice friendly for the people with diabetes. So look forward, we can use plant genome editing technology to do a lot of things, such we can use advanced technology to assemble or resemble artificial chromosomes in higher plants. But besides this, we should also consider the social or regulatory works. So in the end, plant genome editing with other modern breeding technologies such as AI, it will be a cornerstone to ensure the global food security and driving high quality and sustainable agriculture development. Yeah, that's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very interesting, and how technology, gene editing, and all that that knowledge that is being developed can very fast help us answer to emerging demands and needs to have better and more food. Dr. Himanshu, based on the ICRISAT work, how the CGIAR work close with farmers and interact and with all this diversity of crops, answering to challenges of dry lands, could you also tell us a little bit about your experience in this area, please? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this very excellent opportunity. As we know, climate change, stresses of biotic as well as abiotic origins are going to affect global agriculture. But agriculture in drylands are going to be more affected. And as you know, more than 45% of total cultivated areas under dryland. More than 2.2 billion people are getting their livelihoods from these drylands. Drylands are thirsty, but they are also hungry. And because of climate change, because of all these stresses, these drylands are becoming more thirsty, more hungry. Therefore, we really need to find some solution. And these tools, biotechnology, AI, ML, and all those, can really help in a very big way to the agriculture of these drylands. It can accelerate the crop improvement program. The varieties which otherwise would take around 8 to 10 years to develop, we can develop it in 3 years or even less. We can design a product of what kind of product we need. We can apply inputs, water, nutrient, chemicals, pesticides, in right time, right amount, right place, which we call as precision agriculture. We can also add value depending on the requirement of the society. And also we can link to the market so that the farmers will be able to get access to market, sell their products. Now with all of these possibilities, ICRISAT has been working on some of these areas for last few years, and I shall place before you some of our very successful achievements in this direction. Last month, ICRISAT released a variety of pigeon pea, which can tolerate up to 45 degrees centigrade temperature. This variety is photoinsensitive, that means it can be grown during any time of the year. The duration of this variety is 120 days compared to the earlier duration of 160 or even 180 days or so. and the yield is almost double. Now, this is a kind of product which was possible using all these modern tools and technologies. Second example, if I want to give, in case of groundnut, peanut, for which China is also one of the major growers and major consumers. And aflatoxin is a problem for groundnut. Now, we could find some solutions for aflatoxin. Similarly, for sorghum, not only increasing yield per unit area, but also nutritional point of view, how this could be more nutritious as a grain and also as fodder for our livestock. So similar kinds of examples I can give. In last few years, ICRISAT could develop and could give to the farmers. And those were possible only because of this new science and new technologies. But we also know that there are certain challenges to use these technologies. Challenges includes data availability, accessibility, sharing, privacy, and so on. There is also challenges of having facilities and skill, because these technologies really need some more infrastructure, skill, and capacity of the scientists and also the users. We also have challenges of policy. Still, some of these products are to be accepted and adopted by some governments of the world. And of course, investment and infrastructure. So in all of these challenges, if we can come together and solve, these technologies can really provide a very tangible and very successful, impactful outcome in times to come, which we really, really need. Before I conclude, as we are talking of resilience, let me tell you, when we talk of resilience, we also talk of few more R's. We talk of a system which can resist. We also talk of a system which can rebound. We also talk of a system which can recover. And finally, we also talk of a system which can regenerate itself in times to come. Therefore, to achieve resilience, which can resist, recover, rebound, and regenerate, technologies like biotechnology, artificial intelligence, and so on, and combining all of this together has got immense potential, and CG institutes in general, and of course ICRISAT in particular, could show the ways how we can achieve this and how we can make the society much better using all these tools and technologies. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Dr. Himanshu. Very important messages in terms of bringing this technology to the market, to the farmers, and make it useful and answering to the different demands. We have more and more people that will be struggling with climate change. And the message that is coming from the different panelists is that it is urgent and we need to use this technology to speed, right, the responses. Very interesting. I would like to invite Dr. Osamu to talk about the experiences in Japan. We know how Japan is also very technological and very advanced in research. So happy to hear some words from you, Dr. Osamu. Thank you.
Okay. I'd like to thank organizers for giving me such a nice opportunity. Some of you don't know, I'm from Japan International Research Center for Agricultural Sciences. It's one of the national research and development agency under the Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries. And we are conducting international collaborative research for more than half a century. Since 1970 in the developing countries in Asia, Africa, Latin America, and then including China. We have many joint projects with CAS and also with China Agricultural University in food science and food processing technologies. I would like to introduce one example of Japanese experience in relation to the issue of this discussion. In 2021, Japanese government decided green strategy for sustainable food system in line with discussion in the United Nations Food System Summit. And the strategy includes many numerical targets for 2050. It's a long-term target which includes net CO2 emission from agriculture, forestry, fisheries sector, and substantial reduction of chemical inputs such as fertilizers, pesticides, and also the acreage of organic agriculture. Quite ambitious or challenging targets. But now this is one of the main agriculture policy in Japan. The parliament decided supporting new laws for that. And also this is the science and innovation policy, because the targets can be achieved only by innovations. These are domestic policy, but the strategy states one international item, which says Japan will disseminate or share our knowledge and experience to the surrounding countries, where the similar natural and agricultural conditions. We call Asia Monsoon Region, which covers China, India, also ASEAN countries. And to promote that strategy, the government provided budget to our institute to implement a project we call Green Asia Project. There are two components in Green Asia Project. One is the dissemination of information guided by International Advisory Board. Professor Shengen Fang is one of the active members of that board. And we compiled a technology catalog, which includes 44 scalable technologies developed in Japan, also developed in collaboration with the country surrounded by Japan. And the second component is the field trials, pilot studies of some of the technologies included in that catalog. One is BNI wheat, biological nitrification inhibition function. It's equipped in new wheat varieties, or intermediate irrigation technologies, including AWD, alternative wet and drying system, to reduce methane emission from paddy field. So we have several projects in ASEAN countries, or Bangladesh, Nepal, many. And what we learned from this experience, one is the importance of policy setting. Now, our technology catalog is the part of official Japan-ASEAN cooperation documents. It's a part of diplomatic policy. And another point is importance of recognizing local conditions. We learned a lot from field trials. if we introduce same technology in different countries, the result are quite different. We have some unexpected side effect because of the policy environment. So in short, we think globally and we are acting locally. It's a very old phrase, but still effective, I think. So please remember my institute's name, GIRCAS, and green strategy in Japan, and Green Asia project for Asia Monsoon region. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Osamo. And very interesting comments that we heard here before today, that climate change and hunger is a global problem, and it's very interesting to see the initiative in Japan to be more collaborative and work together and share knowledge and technology that is so important. And the policy, I think, is another very important key word for us to really move forward fast globally to fight all these challenges. I would like now to invite Dr. Prasanna, that has long-term experience in developing very important and resilient and resistant varieties and working in many places, in many countries over the globe. So Dr. Prasanna, could you share some of your experience with us, please, on the topic?
Thank you, Vania. When I was thinking about this topic, I was forced to think about the world which has got so many contrasts right now. On one side, we have rapidly progressing technological space. The landscape is changing on a day-by-day basis. On the other hand, we still have resource-constrained smallholders in the global south, especially in sub-Saharan Africa, Latin America, or Asia, who are still struggling to meet the ends and whose problems are exacerbated by many different issues. Chronic droughts, famines, invasive pests and diseases are all affecting their agri-food systems in a major way. How can we build resilient, sustainable, productive, and inclusive agri-food systems in such a world of contrasts? That, to me, is one of the major challenges which collectively organizations need to do. Climate resilient varieties need to be supported by functional and inclusive seed systems. And those seed systems again need to be supported with climate smart agronomic management practices. And then these two need to be integrated in a very effective way through enabling policies. So improved genetics, improved agronomy, and enabling policies all have an extremely important role to play if you have to build resilient agri-food systems. Our work in Africa, for example, with regard to climate resilient maize varietal development and deployment, when I started as maize program director in 2000 in Nairobi at Summit, the adoption of CGR-derived climate resilient maize is hardly 0.5 million hectares in entire sub-Saharan Africa. Today, it has reached 9 million hectares just in 14 years. It has not just happened because of CGR's efforts alone. It happened because of partnerships with over 200 seed companies, besides national partners in 13 different countries. That's the scale at which we need to deploy climate resilient crop germplasm. In Latin America or Africa or Asia, it cannot happen through any single organization. I am reminded by Peter Drucker's powerful quote, where he says that no organization can depend on genius. The supply is scarce and unreliable. It is the test of an organization to bring out whatever strength there in its members and to use each other's strengths to help all the members perform. He says, the purpose of an organization is to make common men to do uncommon things. Common men to do uncommon things. How can we do that without coming together? Genetic gains need to be matched with genetic diversity. Plant health management has to be all pervasive. Pests and diseases, they don't require any visas or any passports. They are moving from country to country at a rapid pace. It's not just national coordination, regional coordination, transcontinental coordination that is required. And there is a huge technological divide. Predictive breeding capacity is hardly there in many of the national partners. Hardly there. We are talking about artificial intelligence. We are talking about genomics-assisted breeding. Tell me how many national partners beyond India, China, Brazil, or some parts of other global south have the capacity to undertake genomics-assisted breeding and do predictive breeding and carry out disruptive genetic innovations like genome editing. There has to be a level playing field. It cannot be, technologies like genome editing cannot be in the hands of a few. We need to make them accessible, affordable, and scalable to multiple countries. Then only we can build resilient, inclusive, productive, sustainable agri-food systems. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Prasanna. Very important keywords here and messages on partnership, right? We cannot do these things all alone. We know many countries still struggle to have access to this technology, and we need clear and efficient seed systems to allow this technology to get to the farmers and finally answer the challenges that we are facing. Thank you very much. And then talking about technology, data, and innovation, Dr. Wei Tong from, we know BGI is probably one of the institutes that are more efficient in generating data and analyzing data and technology for agriculture. I would be very happy to hear from you about your experience in BGI and the importance of technology.
Thank you, Wania, and it's my honor to be here in this roundtable. So I'm Tong Wei from BGI Research, and I joined BGI 2017 after I did my postdoc in UC Davis, and my major was crop science. But in BGI, we are not only work on crops, we are working on biodiversity too and human genomes. So let me tell a bit about history about this HGP and BGI. We all know that back in 1980s that we have the sequencing technology. We have the Sanger sequencing, and then we have the first generation of sequencers. Then all the scientists in the world were thrilled that we can manage to decipher this genome of human. Then we can understand everything, development and cancer. In decades, we can develop more like a powerful like a medicine, right? So in 1990s, 5 countries, United States, UK, Germany, France, and Japan, initiated this a great adventure of human genome projects, budgeted $3 billion. And BGI was established in 1999. We joined this great adventure exactly the same year because this will be a greatest moment in human history, and it's the beginning of the human genome. So after 2 years, we achieved to sequence the 1% of the human genome, and we released the draft genome, human genome. So that's exactly the same year, the global, we share all the data together with all these 6 countries and more than thousands of scientists, then every get access to this great genome resources. So after that, and BGI and other private sectors and also institutes also invest a lot in this technology. So we're seeing a great diverse of different kind of sequencing technology during the last 2 decades. And right now I can see we achieve a turning point because the technology is there. It's affordable for anything. So let me tell you one project we did last year. So you know the first human genome was budgeted $3 billion, but right now we can get one people genome, just less than $100. That's a great success. And last year, we worked with Peking University and other collaborators. We sequenced 500,000 human genome within a year. And this year, we're developing an AI model to predict rare diseases for cancer research and for other researches. So right now, we do have the capacity, but I would say, if we're looking in the world, just like my peers said, the technique is not even. So I really want to say, nowadays, we have done a lot of work in agriculture genomics. We're seeing many genomes was published, but we just need to work together to make it useful for future breeding and also for this resilient food system. In the end, I want to say this: nowadays we are facing a greater challenge with a great uncertainty, including climate change, environmental degradation, regional conflict, and even market fluctuation. But in this world, we also see science and technology is among a few things we can believe. And another thing is collaboration with public and private sectors. So as a tech guy myself, looking in the future, I really believe and I hope that we working together, we can have a brighter future with a resilient food system. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Wei Tong. And yeah, the journey of the genome is something amazing, right? I still feel very young, and I did my PhD with SSRs, and that was not so long ago, and now we can, in basically one day, by $100, generate a human genome. It is impressive, and all that knowledge, without proper collaboration and development together, we would just be doing work separated instead of generating more knowledge and impact after all together. Thanks, very important messages. I would like to start then our discussion now, and I will reduce your time to 2 minutes so we can go through the questions. And I would like to start then with the three scientists. I'm separating you in scientists and directors and president. From the perspective of scientists in the laboratory developing your technology, what possible models do you think we can pursue to leverage this very fast, very rapid progress made in technology by some countries, as you mentioned? Of course, China is the main one we are discussing here, but India, Japan, Brazil was mentioned. I'm very honored. How can we, what possible models can we pursue to leverage this rapid development of technology by these different institutions and support all the countries that are not there yet? So maybe you could continue, Dr. Wei Tong, please.
Thank you again. Then I can continue my 5 minutes. Okay. Let me say, so that's a really good question. So I would say in the beginning, the development of technology and make the first uses, that really takes time and great investment. But after that, the technique can be applied in a lot of places. Probably just need a little modification. I just take for one example, perennial rice. So in the beginning, our collaborator from Yunnan University, Dr. Hu Fengyi, he developed this rice along with Yiri scientists. But that took him more than 10 years to get a very stable, like a perennial variety cultivar. Then, right now, we just tested in the field in Yunnan. We got a 9 year in a row that we harvest 18 seasons. So that means the technique already just mature. But in the beginning, because they crossed like two species, they need to break the like a species barrier. So that took him so many years. But right now, data locus, based on our technology, we identify the gene and we identify the marker. So that means if we want to use in other, like a cultivar, rice cultivar, either from Asian rice or African rice, we can just use a very traditional way to just introduce this loci in other cultivar. Then we can make a new, maybe thousands of varieties very quickly. So that means we really look into this and we really believe into this technology. You know, we really want to just work with international and regional institutes together and to promote this technology. And because now it's cheap, and just maybe 2 years we can get a reliable. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. After we pass the first steps, it's much easier, right, to bring knowledge together and develop together. Dr. Zongyang?
Yeah, thank you. To this question, I think there may be some possible approaches. Firstly, by China, we can initiate some international cooperation programs focused on global relevant agriculture challenges. We can, through the platforms like Belt and Road Agriculture Cooperation. And second, I think we can translate our research outcomes to in real-world impact through practical or on-the-ground collaboration. There is an example is an approach pioneered by Professor Xiaoyun Li from China Agriculture. In Africa, he pioneered the cost-effective technologies, maize, soybean intercropping. And his work promotes the maize yield and while improving the local nutrition. And third, I think we should entire actively share the technology, data, experience, or some genetic resources. As we recently developed the genome editing systems and vectors have been already shared with almost 100 labs across 10 countries. Yeah, so I think through these ways we expect Chinese advanced technologies can be well applied in other countries. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, international collaboration, cooperation, translate research into practical work in different countries and share knowledge. Absolutely agree with you. Dr. Prasanna, your inputs.
First of all, thank you for promoting to a scientist from a director. The most important thing to me, yesterday Sandra was in a different meeting, we were in a different meeting. She gave 3 powerful mantras: alignment, focus, and support. I am going to expand upon that exactly. I think we need to get the upstream fantastic research capacity of institutions in China with the translational and adaptive research capacity with extensive networks of CGIR and the national programs buy-in and their capacity to sustain that innovation for a long term. So that to me is a powerful combination. We need to move away from a simple bilateral program to multilateral program with the long-term funding support on prioritized research areas. Those priorities should be really the ones which influence the livelihoods and lives of millions of smallholder farmers. They are the ones who are in need of our technologies. I think if we can get that kind of a cooperation built into a network on a long-term multidisciplinary mission mode program, then we will do a lot of good in terms of translating our ideas into actions.
Many thanks. Building capacities to sustain. That is definitely a very important message. We are very used to have capacity building and interactions through very short-term projects. And after that is finished, it's very difficult many times that the farmers or even the scientists are able to sustain that in the longer term, and proper support, financial support as well to this type of work. Brilliant. Dr. Osamu, what would be the role of institutions like JIRCAS in developing these models for collaboration and helping other countries?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, my institute is doing collaborative research for decades, but this kind of collaboration is equal footing collaboration. We pursue win-win situation. And also, I agree with the idea of having a longer-term stable collaboration. And then we can achieve some basic research, like the prominent researchers made. Then we can move towards applied research, practical research, and even application in the field. So that kind of continuation is quite effective in developing useful technologies. Multi-stakeholder collaboration is quite important nowadays, because the role of private sectors are very important, and at the same time, role of the government, role of policy is really important. So that could be my answer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Long-term research collaboration and the involvement of multi-stakeholders is very, very important. And Dr. Himanshu, in models that we can pursue and the role of institutions like ICRISAT and the CGIAR.
Thank you very much. As we all have discussed, that these technologies have got a tremendous potential, but there are several challenges, there are several barriers. We really need to overcome all those barriers. And not only focusing on only crop improvement aspect, I think other areas also need to be considered. And those areas includes, besides genetic resource management, we also need to improve natural resource management and also social resource management. So GRM, NRM, and also SRM, all these three are important. And to do that, I think CG as a whole, and of course ICRISAT, can really play a very, very important role in collaborating with China and of course all other countries which need. I will give you very few focused areas where we can do and contribute. Firstly, for developing new varieties which are stress tolerant and so on, we need genetic resources, germplasm. And CG institutes, including ICRISAT, has got a huge collection of all those germplasm. So sharing all those germplasms with others is going to be very, very crucial. Of course, you are the person now who can do all these things. This is number one. Number two is we really need to provide the technology, sharing the knowledge of new tools and new technologies and new science. And again, CG institutes and ICRISAT can play a very important role there. Number three is, which is particularly important for our NARS partners in developing countries, is development of their skill to use these new technologies, whether it is biotechnology, genome editing, AI, ML, or so on. And again, CG institutes have been playing this capacity building role since beginning, since 1971 when CG was established. This is again a time to further strengthen that particular role. Fourth one is, of course, our partnership, which is already very strong, but it needs to be further strengthened. Fifth one is, of course, resource mobilization. Because whatever we do, at the end of the day, we need funding support. We need partnership. We need collaboration. So these are the 5 points. And just before I conclude, let me share with you, ICRISAT in in last July, 3 months back, we have established which we call as ICRISET Center of Excellence for South-South Cooperation in Agriculture, called ISCA. Almost all the CG centers are now a partner. Several of the funding agencies, including Gates Foundation, is also one of the partners. And there are several others, more than 30 are working there. Only objective is to collect all the technologies which are available globally, and then make those technologies available to the developing countries, to the farmers, to the government, so that they will be able to know about the technologies, get those technologies, getting trained about those technologies, and then of course take it forward. So I think these 4 or 5 points are extremely important if we really want to harness the potentials and benefits of technologies like biotechnology, AI, and so on. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Himanshu. So you all, talked on very specific and very important topics, and the last points on resource mobilization, development of capacities. In many places, the skills are not there. We need to share the technology that we develop. Germplasm must be available. Without germplasm, there is no agriculture. And improve natural resources management. So, yeah, you all touched very important topics like how fast the technology is evolving, how fast we can answer nowadays, generating new varieties much faster with gene editing, generating data and analyzing it so deeply that you can really, through the data, find solutions. Sometimes not even need the germplasm, you need much more data nowadays. This also touches another important topic, which is the policy, international policy. Then I'm bringing my germplasm responsibility on benefit sharing and following all what different countries have agreed in this international forum. And how can we deal with these things? I feel like we all have the formula. We know science. We are evolving very fast. We know we need to build capacity. We have a lot of knowledge to share. We need sustainability and we need funds. How can we bring all that together and move out of this session with a plan? So, does anybody want to answer that question? How can we come together? What is the formula now? We know everything that we have to do, right? And we have the technical and the scientific knowledge for that. So now, how can institutions like BGI, ICRISET, CGIAR, JIRCAS, and universities, what is our action plan now? What can we do to together support other countries and other institutions and build this knowledge together? I wish we had the Gates Foundation here with us. Maybe that's with whom we should be talking to help us with funding, because that was also one of the topics, right? We need proper resource for this type of long-term impact on the science that we are developing. So let me know, who wants to start, or should I nominate? Dr. Osamu, please.
Actually, we are working in that line every day. Actually, we are just doing collaborative activities with many organizations in the world. So, but traditional way of collaboration, or either bilateral or tripartite, multilateral, sometimes interrupted by the political cause, and so, and then now I said last time I said that the role of private sector is quite important now. So we must include, someone already mentioned, public-private partnership into the traditional way of collaboration. Maybe multi-stakeholder collaboration in a big project organized by CGIAR or Bill Gates Foundation. maybe that kind of way we can enhance global collaboration in agriculture research.
Yeah, we didn't touch that topic before, the role of the private sector, right? That's very, very important. Any other inputs about?
I believe that institutional frameworks are very important to respect intellectual property and to share the intellectual property in a very organized and systematic manner. That's where most of the time the partnerships fail. And if that respect for intellectual property is there upfront, and there is a path to commercialization that is clear, then technologies will flow. To me, that requires openness, a kind of transparency and capacity to give. That capacity to give is very, very critical. And without that, so far we are talking only about sharing technologies, but the future world will develop and depend more about co-developing technologies. That co-developing technologies can only come if there is institutional framework enabling policy and respect for intellectual property.
Very interesting. Yes, co-developing, more partnership, and getting to the end of the line. Dr. Wei Tong.
Okay. Yeah, resources are always all limited. So I think that's going to be the same forever. Yeah, but I would say, just like what I said before, that all the technology, when it's developed, it's expensive. But when it's done, I think to know that, to understand it, and to reach out, that's quite important. It's that not expensive. So from my experience, that right now we are developing DNA models for all the plants, for all the crops. That's gonna cost a fortune. But just let the big companies, big institutes do it. We can just do like a minor tuning. We can have very like specialized model. Let's see, we can make one model for rice breeding, make one for chickpea. So that is achievable. I think in the long run, we can definitely have our own model for agri-food system, and we can have for breeding. Yeah, but I would say still, I think openness is really important, because there's a knowledge gap between like a research society with the breeding and with the food companies. So openness is really important. And when the resources are limited, I would say we can take baby steps. We can start something small. Then we can understand how the technology can be implemented in the new field. Yeah, just my suggestion.
Thank you very much. Also very important points. Anyone else wants to make a comment on this topic?
So I think I want to emphasize 2 points. Promote knowledge or data sharing, for instance, so we can cooperatively develop about the open access or royalty-free genome editing toolkit, and so that any breeding program, breeding program in the global south can freely use it and applied it to their local varieties. And then I want to say coordinating policies also is very important. Different countries now have different views on how to regulate the genome editing crops. So aligning science-based regulatory frameworks, I think it is very important to accelerate its commercially use and also benefit the global south. Yeah.
Thank you very much. That's very important, regulation.
Okay, just quickly 2 points. Of course, these technologies have got global potential. This can be applied in any place for any crop, including animals and so on. But then the requirements are always local. So what a particular country a particular society needs, that we really need to understand. And then, along with NARS, CG, and of course our funders, let us decide what are the priority areas for that particular country, for that particular place, for which crop and which animal, something. So let us decide that. This is number one. Number two is, all these technologies are changing very fast.
Yes.
Whether it is biotechnology or AI, I mean, what we are thinking today, maybe tomorrow something else is coming. So the scientific community, including all the scientists in CG system, also needs to upgrade our knowledge, do some more basic and strategic research, so that we also will be at par with whatever developments are happening in these particular areas. We have to be always ahead in terms of knowing and generating new knowledge and technologies, and then use those knowledge and technologies to address some specific problems in a particular location, of course, along with NARS partners and funders. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Himanshu. Thank you very much to the panel. I think it became very clear from the discussion that we have a lot of technology being developed by different institutions. Collaboration is happening. We are evolving very fast in technology, but there are still some gaps in terms of more collaboration, in terms of policy, institutional framework, more regulation, not necessarily, but the regular the policy aspect of how we can have open access, but also how we can move from a traditional way of working through small collaborations and projects that sometimes are competitive, but that could actually be more collaborative, and how through that process we can also find a longer term partnership and also bring in the private sector that has greater capacity many times, and also understanding the special needs of the different countries and how the technologies that we are developing can be used to benefit them all. Well, I think now I conclude the panel, and thank you very much, and thank you for the audience for being with us. And now we'll start the second roundtable, and I will hand over to Kevin. Thank you, Kevin. Welcome.
Well, my name is Kevin Chen. I work with the International Food Policy Research Institute. I'm also the chair professor. I do want to mention my another title, and I'm the senior advisor to CGIAR China Corporation. Maybe that's why Schengen put me on this particular role. And so I'm very pleased to have this opportunity to moderate the Roundtable 2, and listening from the discussion in the Roundtable 1, I think that seemed to be a continuation. We already talked about quite a bit on the collaboration and so on, but the emphasis maybe on the Roundtable 2 is quite clear. It's how those global agricultural research institute, regional institutes, and country-level institute can collaborate together and to improve the resilience of agri-food system. I think that's probably the focus for Roundtable 2. And to address this particular challenge, and we have a number of heavyweights in our profession, so I'd like to invite them to the stage. And our first panelist will be the Dr. Agri Agumaya, who is the executive director for FARA, the Forum for Agricultural Research in Africa. But unfortunately, and he cannot travel to Beijing, so he will deliver his video message shortly. And with that, I'd like to invite our first panel who present today, and President Li Zhaohu, and President of Beijing Forestry University. Welcome, President Li. And our second panelist is from the Africa Rice, the Director General, Dr. Baboka Manor. Welcome to the stage. Our third panelist in presence is the Deputy President, Hainan Academy of Agricultural Science. Please welcome to the stage. He's also director of the Bee Research Institute with the Chinese Academy of Agricultural Science. Welcome. Yeah. And our fourth panelist is Dr. Kanisia Kanangira. I had a little trouble with the last name, but I hope I said it right. You can correct me later on. And he's the Executive Director of Africa Agricultural Technology Foundation. And our final panelist for Roundtable 2 is Director General Dr. Simon Hack from International Potato Center. Welcome, Simon. So as I mentioned, the way I look at it looks like we're going to continue the discussion we already started in the Roundtable 1, and in particular look at how the global and regional institutions can collaborate to improve the technology transfer, the knowledge sharing, to address the food security and malnutrition challenge we all face today. So with that particular challenge in mind, of course, we see the necessity. Really, we need to make concerted efforts for the countries, for the institution, really from a different stage of development to work together. So we had the pleasure to have such good representative today in the panel from well-known international CGIAR centers and from China and also from Africa Regional Institute, who with a rich experience on the collaboration on the research side and to share their experience, to tell us the challenge they probably face, how they address those challenges, and so on. So with that, I'd like to first give the floor, but through the video presentation from the Dr. Agri Agumaya, the probably 7 or 8 minutes video intervention. Yeah, let's welcome Dr. Agumaya on video.
Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Agri Agumya. I serve as Executive Director of the Forum for Agricultural Research in Africa, also known as FARA. It is a huge pleasure and honor for FARA and for me personally to be given the opportunity to make a statement at this forum. I especially thank Professor Shengen Fang for facilitating our engagement in this forum. I had planned on joining you in person, but regrettably this was not possible. I'll limit my intervention to 2 points. I'll start by speaking briefly about the institutional architecture of agricultural research and innovation in Africa and how FARA fits into this architecture. I will then share some thoughts about how agricultural science, technology, and innovation partnerships between Africa and China can be strengthened. Let me start by pointing out that Africa comprises 55 sovereign countries. Yes, 55. This big number of countries shows that the continent is very fragmented. Each country has a national agricultural research system, and most of these systems are weak, they are underfunded, and they are overstretched. That said, there are several strong national systems that we can speak of. In order to contain the adverse effects of this fragmentation, and in order to achieve economies of scale and facilitate knowledge and technology spillovers across countries, regional agricultural research organizations were established. We have such organizations for Southern Africa, CADESA, for Eastern and Central Africa, ASARECA, for Western Central Africa, CORAF, and for North Africa, NASRO. These regional organizations interface with their respective regional political bodies to ensure that science informs and is supported by policy. After the regional agricultural research organizations were established, it was found necessary to establish a continental apex body, hence the creation of FARA 23 years ago as the continent's apex body for agricultural research and innovation. FARA serves four main functions. The first is research coordination, and this is performed mainly through priority setting and supporting the African Union and African Union Development Agency, NEPAD, in formulating and operationalizing strategic initiatives that are essential for achievement of the continent's food and agricultural development objectives and goals. The second function is around policy advocacy, and this is performed through engagement with regional and continental political bodies and through forums outside the continent, notably partnership forums established by the European Union and South-to-South cooperation platforms like Africa-Brazil, Africa-China, Africa-India, and the like. The third function is around mobilization and strengthening of research and innovation partnerships within Africa, but crucially between Africa and external entities. The fourth function is about facilitating knowledge and information exchange. I would like to observe that in addition to the challenge of geographic fragmentation, epitomized by having 55 sovereign countries, Africa has contended with the challenge of thematic fragmentation among knowledge institutions, whereby research, extension, and education have not been sufficiently integrated. In recent years, however, the continental apex organizations for research, notably FARA, for extension, AFAS, and for higher education, GRUFORUM, have led a move towards strong integration of research, extension, and education by establishing the African Agricultural Research, Extension, and Education Alliance. This alliance is coordinated by FARA, and it recently signed a partnership engagement framework with the CGIAR. In summary, we in Africa have the institutional framework to engage with significant research, innovation, and academic entities like the ones here in China and in other notable agricultural knowledge centers. Let me turn to the second point, which is around the question of how research systems in Africa and China can work together, promote agricultural STI that will transform our food systems. Regarding this, I would like to make the following three observations. The first one is that there is a lot going on already at country level in terms of China-Africa Partnership for Agricultural Development and Agricultural Research and Innovation. But these efforts are not coordinated beyond the country level. This way, we in Africa miss out on the opportunities for spillovers and for economies of scale given the fragmentation of the continent. Second is an example of a regional or continental initiative that was the Africa-British-China initiative to support technology transfer primarily from China to Africa. This initiative was not sustained because it was founded on a short-term project premise. Hence, its impact has been limited. This example underscores what we forego if a partnership is not underpinned by long-term thinking. The third point is about a significant initiative established in 2024 between the Chinese Academy of Agricultural Science and the African Academy of Science. This initiative is the China-Africa Agriculture STI Innovation Alliance, CASTIA. CASTIA is an important partnership platform that the African side has fully embraced, but the African side is not certain that on the China side, this platform is inclusive of all the actors we would like to engage with, and in particular, the extension system, the universities, and the policy levers of government. I would like to conclude by pointing out the following 4 points. Number one, that in Africa we have an institutional setup that facilitates inclusive engagement with agricultural STI entities in China and other big agriculture countries, and that this setup is backed up politically by the organs of the African Union. Number two, African leaders recently endorsed the 10-year continental strategy for agricultural development starting in 2026. In addition to this, a 10-year action plan articulating how agricultural research, education, and extension entities will support implementation of this strategy has been elaborated. We recognize the value of partnerships and knowledge exchange from outside the continent to realize the continent's vision, as set out in the continent strategy and action plan. We are therefore ready and committed to enter into the needed partnerships. Number 4, we recognize that such partnerships should have the following characteristics. They should be coordinated at regional and continental level, in addition to the country level. They should be inclusive of all actors, and they should have strong linkages to policy bodies. They should be sustainable, and they should be long-term by design. With those observations, I would like to thank the organizers of this forum for giving me the opportunity to make these remarks. I also want to end by affirming that FARA and the Agricultural Research and Innovation actors in Africa look forward to working with the responsible entities in China to make the China-Africa partnership in SEI exceed its expectations. I thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Maya, for your insightful intervention and the integrated, coordinated approach will be very much needed, and FARA certainly is a very important partner in the technology transfer arena. And we're sorry that we miss you this year in person, and certainly we would like to welcome you back next year. I remember my earlier work with the UK, try to promote a trilateral partnership with the UK government, with FARA in Africa, and with FECC in China, try to transfer some of the technology in China in Africa to improve the productivity and so on. So we look forward to more opportunity to partner with you and to work on the technology transfer, knowledge sharing areas. Thank you again very much. And with that, let me invite our panelists for the first round intervention. Let me firstly invite President Lee. And mountain is very important, forestry is very important. And the technology in that particular area, I like to say how the Beijing Forestry University see the challenge, what kind of work we do in enhance or improve the collaboration internationally to address some of the issue in the forestry and in the mountain areas. President Lee, floor is yours.
Thank you, Professor Chin. And I'm pleased to be here on stage and see so many friends here. And I also alumni of CAU. So first I let me blessing China Act. I graduated from CAU as a bachelor in 1987 and got my master from 1990. Let me start my talk with a picture that's lying in my mind. That's a picture with a plant. That's from late 1980s. A plant called as a transgenic plant. Suppose a tomato plant with beautiful fruits in the upground and with the potato fruit in the underground. I believe that's the time for start of the biotechnology. Inspired a lot of young men to devote into the scientific research. And also, I believe a lot of my CEDU graduates and also a lot of Chinese young scientists working internationally on the scientific research go on. So what I would like to see in today, improve our cooperation for scientific research. I like to emphasize on the young talent training and an exchange. I believe over the past 40 years, we have a great achievement in the development technology and also the agriculture itself. I believe one of the key things is the cooperation. And one of the key things is get young generations involved in this trend. So facing the future, getting the resilience, I think the education and training the young talent is still a very key issue today. And we are looking for get more students trained internationally in China or world after our day. But certainly, this is not as the case now. I am president for 2 universities, and also in CAU, I served as the vice president. Then I moved to Huazhong Agricultural University for 6 years as president. Now I moved to Beijing Forest last year. I see the international travel for the student numbers, in terms of numbers, is not as high as before sometimes. So I think facing the future, this is one of the things I like to say here today. Another thing is we are facing so many problems, or like the climate change. I believe all of these problems that we are facing now today is more as tough as before, or more even tough than ever. So for meeting these challenges, we need to identify where the directions we are looking for the future for cooperation. Certainly for the resilience and the agriculture, there are 4 directions we need to face. The first one is, we have talked a lot about the biotech into intelligent breedings. Another thing is we need to think about the digital leap. It's one of the things. Another third is the green revolution, green transformation, low carbon and circular things we need. Another thing is the nutritional agriculture. So the cooperation we need work on these major directions so that we can find our solutions for our future, for better agriculture. This is what I'm thinking for the cooperation itself. And lastly, the third, for the future now, the cooperation scientific research is a transformation, apparently. It's more like one word, extreme. We are going for more extreme macro scale and micro scale. And we go more extremely environment. And also, we go extremely interdisciplinary. So this is give us more opportunity need to mission-oriented research cooperation. With all of these, I believe we can get a very big future to work on together. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you very much, President Lee, for your intervention and outlines some of the challenge and the new challenge associated with climate change and others, how to work together to improve the resilience of agricultural food system. And you particularly mentioned the slight decline in exchange in the international student as one of the concern. And I remember vividly, and during my early career, certainly I was sent to US or Canada to receive trainings. And now I come back, and which certainly is important those, for the China's development. I'm not saying myself is important, but those type of training and exchange is very important. And so to keep the exchange active and moving is certainly critical for the science, technology transfer, and innovation, and knowledge sharing, and so on. With that, let me invite our next panelist, and Dr. Babuka Manor, to intervene. And he is from Africa Rice. And a couple of years ago, we did an interesting simulation exercise. We failed at that time with some assumption, of course, on technology. We said Africa can feed itself in terms of rice by 2030. It may become net export of rice. Do you see that this kind of exercise or vision can be actually realized? What's a critical way to achieve that? What do you think the Africa Rice may be able to play in that?
Thank you very much, Kevin, for the very provocative question. First, let me thank the organizers of the conference, the WAFI. It's my second WAFI, and I'm really impressed with the quality of the organization. And thanks to Schengen, of course, for inviting us all here. Kevin, to come to your question, this is actually what is challenging the CG and other institutions that are really trying to work towards establishing or attaining food security in the southern world. So for Africa, really, this has been a challenge for quite a while to get the continent to be self-sufficient. Other regions of the world, we have seen a lot of very good progress. Latin America, Asia, where the national institutions have risen up and they have really evolved to be real powerhouses, rivaling the international research institutions. But in Africa, unfortunately, we do not have that level of success, particularly Africa south of the Sahara, which we call the sub-Saharan African countries. So presently, we have many countries in that region where they have really prioritized self-sufficiency in rice production, and my institution, the Africa Rice Center, being the custodian of that challenge now to really ensure the attainment of rice self-sufficiency within the continent in the medium term. We are glad to really see that level of drive and commitment coming from the countries now to really get to self-sufficiency. So already we are seeing a lot of good progress within the countries, but then the challenge that we are having, I think the earlier presenters mentioned, we have the population challenge and we have the climate change also, of course, other challenges. We are really making the attainment of food security, but even rice self-sufficiency to be really a very, very big challenge. So from now against 2030, we have institutions that we are working with. Sometimes these are even subnational institutions. Just to give you an example, we have one of the major regions that are producing rice in Nigeria called the Niger State. There, the governor has launched a very ambitious program to increase rice production by up to 10 million tons by 2030. So to just give you an idea about what that implies, Nigeria presently, the total annual consumption of rice is 8.3 million tons, but we have just one state whereby the ambition and the target actually is to get to 10 million tons production by 2030. We have another region also where the target is to increase rice production by 3 million tons. So we have these huge ambitions coming sometimes from the subnational institutions to really boost rice production and to attain self-sufficiency, but even export rice regionally by 2030. The technologies are there, but now really the big challenge is going to be how can we be able to have the partnerships, especially with the financial institutions, to do the scaling of those technologies so that the average yields in rice, for example, presently we are 2.3 tons per hectare in Africa, sub-Saharan Africa. How can we be able to make sure the scaling of those technologies will be fast enough to be able to get to that increased productivity so that we can attain the production level that we are aspiring to do. So technologies do exist where we can be able to increase yields by up to 2 tons per hectare. For example, we have what we call the Smart Valleys technologies. Smart Valleys actually is a water management system in the rainfed lowlands where it can allow farmers to increase their yields by up to 2 tons per hectare. And if you consider the rainfed lowlands comprising about 40% of the rice area in Africa. So when you do a scaling of such a technology, significant area, definitely there are lots of opportunities to be able to get to rice self-sufficiency in the continent by 2030. So Kevin, I can say that yes, it is achievable, but it needs a lot of resources and coordination of efforts to make sure that those proven technologies, we are able to do the scaling fast enough and also on such a scale to make sure that that additional production of rice that we need in sub-Saharan Africa, we are able to realize. Because as I mentioned, that's where the big challenge is. Northern Africa, for example, Egypt, they are a very good model. Already they have been able to attain that self-sufficiency, and then their productivity for almost 30 years between 8 to 10 tons per hectare, among the highest in the world. So and this is what we are really trying to work with the sub-Saharan African countries to promote peer-to-peer learning even within the continent, south-south, so that we can be able to make those sub-Saharan African institutions as efficient as, for example, Egypt. We do not need to go very far. Of course, we can learn from others through the partnerships with Chinese institutions, Embrapa in Brazil and others, but very much more faster approach will definitely be to try to just across the Sahara the Egyptian institutions whereby, like I said, they have been able to really have a very good integrated agricultural system, high performing, very stable, more than 30 years. So definitely my answer to you is yes, it is achievable, but it needs a lot of very good coordination and resourcing. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Baboka Mana, for the very positive perspective. I did that in the office. You assessed that from the field. So I'm really happy to hear this positive aspect, and we will certainly join the hands. And I know Gates Foundation is very interested in promoting the more rice production and in Africa, and we are looking at the ways to partner with the Africa Institute and of course Africa Rice as a CGI center certainly can play a very instrumental role on that. But with your positive perspective on that, certainly that's very encouraging, because I remember when we did some assessment early on, we felt the yield gap is huge. And in the pilot trial, you can easily increase the productivity, but the challenge is how can you scale it up? That's the biggest challenge. So certainly we'll work towards that, and with the different institutions or institute on that particular objective. Next, please allow me to invite Vice President from Hainan Academy of Agricultural Science. And when those days, we talk about how the CGIAR should work more effectively in China. One advice I always got to go to Hainan, right? So I want to hear from Vice President Wu on that particular perspective. For example, in international institute like CGIAR, and we certainly want to enhance our collaboration with China. We have our good presence in Beijing and in some other province, and we are trying to establish our presence in Hainan. So we'd like to hear your perspective on that. Of course, not only your partnership with the CGIAR, but also with other international or regional organizations, including from Africa.
Okay.
President Wu, yes.
Since we have translated and my English is not very good, so I will speak in Chinese. It will be more clear. 尊敬的各位先生、各位女士，这样邀请我来，我想大家想了解一下海南自贸港建设的一些国际合作、农业国际合作方面的一些情况。那么我了解的一些情况，向大家做一个汇报。因为海南自由贸易港是习近平总书记亲自谋划、亲自部署的一个重要的一个战略，国家战略。我实际上是中组部选派员穷干部，也是在海南农科院挂职副院长，经过2年的话，确实是感受到了我们国家对这个改革开放坚定的信心啊，改革开放坚定的信心。因为海南自贸港将在今年的12月18号封关，12月18号这个日期可能外国的朋友可能不清楚，是我们1978年三中全会定下来的改革开放。邓小平同志当时1978年，也就是三中全会是一个非常典型的一个大会，是一个改革开放的一个典型政党。又在12月18号封关，本来就有一个非常重要的一个意义在啊。第二个的话，海南省热带特色农业是海南自由贸易港的4大支柱产业之一，它的产值基本上占海南整个 GDP 的20%以上，这个在我们其他省份是不太可以想象的啊。所以的话，所以它尤其是海南还有农业上面的话，它有温度和纬度的优势，因为海南在中国的最南端，也就是一个海岛。第3个的话，就相当于是基地，大量的基地，包括李家炎院士为主任的国家实验室也在那里建立，也在三亚的亚洲湾建立了大量的国家的种业南盘基地啊。它也就是说，它是一个同纬度农作物引进吸收的一个重要的基地。 那么我们知道，实际上的话，这个也是国际合作的一个前沿阵地。为什么呢？包括非洲科学院的达克拉院士也是长期聘用在亚洲湾，包括我们的国际的留学生，我们觉得就是说，授人以鱼不如授人以渔啊。所以的话，我们在培养留学生方面的话，基本上是完全是放开的。所以的话，也就是说，这个农作物的种子的培养啊等等的话，在那个地方是完全是开放的。所以的话，尤其是封关了以后，未来远期的话，农作物就是农产品进口到海南是免关税的，只要在海南增值到30%以后呢，它产品是可以免关税进入中国的道路进行销售的。所以的话，它本来就是一个非常开放的一个体系。所以的话，这个有机会大家欢迎大家去海南看看，这个的话也是国际农业合作的一个挺到典范的一个地方啊。那现在的话，国际合作肯定是非常重要，因为呢现在包括中国在内，整个的世界各国的农业都是整体效能并不特别高。那么各有各的优势，要展开合作，尤其是现在这个还有一些新技术，包括信息技术啊、生物技术的发展，所以的话对这个国际合作提出了新的要求。还有呢，粮食安全，我们知道“一带一路”的国家相当多的国家实际上还是粮食短缺的国家，所以的话，我觉得我们也愿意这个跟国际上展开的充分的合作，让大家都这个不受粮食短缺的困扰。因为说现在确实地缘政治风险，包括逆全球化等等的保护主义啊，大家也在看到，也在抬头。所以的话，我们加强这块合作的话，对应该说是对世界农业人民的都是一个福祉。那么海南农科院近几年的话，在农业国际合作上面的话，也做了相当工作。比如说，我们主导了中国那个就现在留粮的联盟组织，同时我们也加入了中非的农业合作的一个组织，然后呢，也计划在非洲建立一个大豆和玉米的一个培育中心。然后我们海南农科院的书记的话，也刚刚从南美回来，就是说阿根廷和巴西，包括我自己也带团出访了那个南亚老挝，在老挝建立了实验基地，同时也展开了很多的合作。同时，我们海南农科院的话，也是派出了相当多的人员，比如说前一阵子就是肯尼亚进行林校经济的培训，包括南亚的相当国家，都是在进行一个技术的交流和培训。应该说这方面的工作的话，做的还是比较多的。当然了，还有更大的提升空间。所以的话，也希望国际友人多到海南去看看，多到海南农科院看看，我们可以展开更多的合作。所有一切，我觉得都是开放的。好，谢谢。
Well, thank you so much, President Wu, on all those positive progress made. And certainly, when it comes to the international cooperation, there are always certain barriers here and there. And we certainly hope Hainan, as a special economic zone place, may provide us with a unique opportunity to address some of those challenges, to enhance our international cooperation, to address the food security and insecurity issues. And from CGI's perspective, we certainly already make a presence there, and in the partnership with the Chinese Academy of Agricultural Science. And we hope that we can make a trip there, and the next time, hope we can meet you and to discuss the potential for further concrete collaborations. Without further ado, please allow me to invite our next panelist, and Dr. Kanisia Kanongir, to make an intervention, and he's Executive Director, Africa Agricultural Technology Foundation. Please.
Thank you very much. I wish, first of all, to thank Professor Schengen Fan for giving me the opportunity to participate to this wonderful conference. As the previous speaker said, we are here trying to tackle very, very important issues, very serious problems, which in a way handicaps nations and continents to reach food security, to improve the agri-food system, and be able to satisfy the needs of everyone on this planet. And those problems which include climate change issues, the drought, which include pests and diseases, which also include other aspects, soil and others. We talked about them in previous sessions. All those are so big that no one institution can deal with them alone. We need absolutely to work together to be able to address them. The second thing I want to say is that, again, I will borrow it from previous presentations, is that technology is advancing very quickly. We have availability of technologies in some parts of this world, including very useful innovations which could help to accelerate the attainment of the solution that we need. But unfortunately, as Prasanna said, there is a lot of contrasts. We have a huge gap between the technologies and innovations which are available and the accessibility to the smallholder farmers on the African continent, especially in the sub-Saharan region. What do we need to do then to address that issue? It is collaboration. Collaborations thought differently, collaboration, energy, and investment quite well increased. But this is why the organization I'm privileged to work for has been created in 2003 to actually bridge the gap between those technologies and the need of the farmers, to ensure that technologies which are produced by international research institutions, private companies, are transferred and brought to the hands of the farmers to address those solutions and create the impact we have been talking about. Collaboration, creation of partnership has been our model of work. And those partnerships brought together those research institutions, government services, and also the private sector to be able to take those innovations from the shelves to the fields of the farmer. I will share with you a number of examples that we have been able to achieve and which I think show that this collaboration can be done, but also touch at the end of it where we need to do more. First of all, on maize, and we know maize in Africa in some areas where when there is no maize on the table, prepared in different ways, there is no food at all. And maize is very much, the production of maize is limited by drought, but also by the fall armyworm and stem borers. Those are pests which are very, very devastating. So we have developed product through cooperation, through partnership, and these products have been now commercialized in countries like Nigeria, in addition to South Africa, and it is changing the lives of many people. One of the publications which got out this year on the trials made last year show that there is a yield gain of 88% on productivity of that maize, Taylor maize. And that has increased also the income of the farmer. We are also commercializing BT cowpea, which can resist Maruca vitrata in Ghana, in Nigeria. And those technologies are being brought also to countries like Ethiopia, Mozambique, Kenya, and others. So that could not be achieved if we had no effective collaboration with those institutions. The second area we want to talk about is the creation of companies. Actually, these are seed-based technologies. Seed systems in Africa are very scanty, very weak. In some countries, it is very difficult to talk of proper seed. They continue to recycle the grains. And it was very difficult to build seed systems without having foundation seed companies, which would produce seed, foundation seed of high quality, so that we can be able to feed the seed producing companies with proper materials. And that is what we did. AATF created two companies, one in West Africa and one in Eastern and Southern Africa, to produce those foundation seed. And that has constituted the basis to start now strengthening the seed system, which now is present in 32 countries in Africa. That also is an effort which was done through a very collaborative partnership with the private sector especially. The last one I want to show is the power of looking at it not in isolation, but rather on a value chain basis. We are working in Nigeria on mechanization of cassava value chain. And we have mechanization to the field, but also agro-processing of the roots once they are produced. And this comes with a bundle of solutions which go with the good agronomic practice, which go with value addition, producing new products, including in bakery, in biscuits and others, which go with that. And that has changed the population in that region where we are working. So bundling the solutions, and again, bringing in all the partners which are required. To conclude, I think we need to focus on some key areas if we are really to produce that impact. First of all, there is need to work more jointly in research and development and open up the sharing of traits. The agreement needs to ensure that the southern part of this world access the technologies which are produced in other, the global north, but also in the quickly fast advancing countries like China, like India and others. We need to open up. Second, we need to do more knowledge and data sharing because that is where now those researchers in the South will also be equipped and be at, almost at par with their colleagues and be able to work. And this will help us especially accelerate some areas like in policies, in regulatory framework, in stewardship, which will improve and accelerate approvals and adoption. That is where we waste most of our time because it is very cruciating to have policy making, have policies and other partners going through the process till the approval of a new product. The last one, I would like to insist on need to pool resources for scale. Because so far we have been quite well in working in small pilots at research level. But we need to pull those together, scale up the production so that we can create impact. And that will require that we work together to ensure that we align the priorities of donors, of governments, of the private sector to transfer those technologies to the farmers at a huge level so that we can create the impact that we want. So let's move beyond just bilateral cooperations and go to global partnership where we can pool the resources, the knowledge, and work together to produce those impacts. I think those three would be my call for action as we move towards a greater collaboration and partnership with institutions, especially in this country, China, with sub-Saharan Africa. I think you have more to give, and we have the environment, and we have the thirst to use those technologies for the betterment of our agri-food system. I thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Kanangia, for your intervention and also the 3 points of action. And I particularly echo your point on the importance of policy, importance of scaling up. And referring back to your intervention, you also mentioned that one perspective is extremely important is the need assessment. What actually Africa needs, how the international collaboration can deliver what the Africa needs actually are. So how can we do effective needs assessment? I think we always think we know how to do it, but in practice it's always very difficult and challenging. So with that, I would like to invite my colleague from CGIAR, Dr. Simon Heck, the Director General from SIP, to intervene. And well, SIP has been in China, in the world, many years. In China, you celebrated the 40 years anniversary. You've been you made a very huge progress in China, established a partnership, and has international IO status center. And you seem to have everything in order to make huge progress, of course, except the fundings, right? And so we need more funding to make that work. But from your experience, what would be the lesson you think for CGIAR other center, for the other international organization to work with, to improve the food security, malnutrition in Africa? Floor is yours. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Kevin. And let me just take that as my starting point. 40 years of SIP in China. We had a nice event last night to commemorate that. And as one often does, right, we then remember our pioneers, the scientists, the hero scientists who got us started, and how important that is. And also how that is not enough after a while. And I think the success of our partnership in China is that we could combine the individuals who pioneered and who came with that enthusiasm, energy, and creativity, then with an institutional approach to partnership that is required, right, to make sure we get the full advantage of our capacities, our infrastructures, our human resources that we need to bring together. So I think reflecting on that a bit, the other dimension is that how much things have changed in the 40 years, changed in China and in the world, that today the type of role of the CGIAR or SIP in China is very different. The Chinese systems, the way we understand it, is highly dynamic. It is becoming very articulated at the local and provincial levels. The role of private sector within China and the potato industry is very important now, centrally important for investments in technologies. All that now we need to fold into our partnerships. And that's being done with the leadership of CAS and others who guide us. The other dimension is that it's now no longer about an institution like SIP and China. It's about the world, right? And we are building bridges and connections, connecting Chinese capacities, expertise with our partnerships in Africa, also in Latin America. There are a number of important examples there. One of the latest ones is the Global Hybrid Potato Alliance that's centered around the HEIS facility in Shenzhen, but now bringing in countries such as Rwanda and our role to connect what we are doing in other regions to this Chinese capacity around hybrid potato breeding. A third one, if I may just mention, early this morning I was invited to speak at another forum called the Dietary Fiber Forum. Professor Fan, in his infinite wisdom, made that connection to say, but root and tuber crops, where we are working on as the International Potato Center, are a very important source of dietary fiber. Why don't you go and engage with those nutritional and medical scientists and reflect on the supply of dietary fiber through more productive root and tuber crop systems? So that also is China today, right? That it's no longer just about the volume of potato production, certainly about the quality of the potato, the quality of diets in an urbanizing and an aging society, and we need to stay up to date as an international partner to the demand in China. So those are some reflections from our partnership. I think overall, right, we do need to combine then our individual science collaborations that's often around one university department or one professor and their international networks and move towards a more institutionalized approach. We need both in the end to then focus our minds and our resources on those most impactful priorities. If I can just perhaps extend one example, we're currently thinking through that, and that's our gene banks. And as we know, SIP working on root and tuber crops, that has so far been quite an expensive undertaking, right? To conserve in vitro thousands or tens of thousands of accessions every year. A new technology around cryopreservation now is taking hold, and SIP, we have been a bit of a pioneer in that, applying that cryopreservation techniques to root and tuber crops. We are now looking for partners around the world. China is obviously a very important partner. So you have building blocks, including in Hainan, that I had the chance to visit, where gene banks do the same thing, and we want to make sure that other regions of the world don't fall behind. One of our colleagues, I think Dr. Prasanna said, right, we can't afford that inequality, and we can't afford that half of the world is left behind as we make leaps in digital and otherwise. So, right, looking at a global network of gene banks that apply advanced cryopreservation technologies to the conservation and sharing of root and tuber crop genetic resources is extremely important. It has three dimensions in our view and the kind of activities required. One is about people, right? We need to train people to be able to use these technologies. Universities such as CAU and others need to come in here. We need to exchange people and have that benefit of shared and joint teams across regions. Number two is the infrastructure. That includes the physical infrastructure of these cryobanks, but also the infrastructure in terms of the intellectual infrastructure, the methodologies, the protocols that need to be shared globally. That requires a very intentional effort. And finally, it's about the partnership models. We have frameworks, the International Treaty of Plant Genetic Resources and others need to be fully mobilized to support this. And we have partnerships with private sector and food industry that also need to step up, as some of them now start to do, step up and support financially the conservation of global genetic resources. So these are the kind of lessons we're learning, not just from China, but around the world. I think it really requires us as science institutions to bring all our mandates that we have, whether it's a global one, whether it's a national one, and with the mandates, our resources, financial resources, our human resources, our intellectual and physical resources together. And you know, the challenge out there is enormous. As I think we heard earlier in the morning, that overall agricultural growth is slowing down at a time when it needs to speed up. And what's more worrisome, perhaps for us as scientists, the contributions of factor productivity to the growth is actually declining, right? There was a study recently by the US Department of Agriculture saying over the last decade, the last 10 years, agricultural growth overall is only now less than 2%. That's worrisome in itself. But that growth that did happen came mainly, again, from more land under cultivation, from more water being used, from more fertilizer, more agrochemicals. It came much less than in previous decades from factor productivity gains. So that means we haven't done our job well enough. And part of that failure has been not enough collaboration, not enough partnerships with all regions in the world so that we can really benefit from each other's capacities and comparative advantage. Thank you. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Simon Hack, for your intervention and sharing the SIP experience and the implication for the global international collaboration on the agricultural research and so on for the potato. Like when I worked in Gansu on the zinc enriched potato, I find fascinating, right? The people there eat potato for breakfast, for the lunch, for the dinner. That's why they can get enough zinc from consuming potatoes. So it has medical value on that, which bring the benefit and so on. For those type of things, we need to respond, I think. We talk about how we improve, enhance the total factor productivity. It needs to be quality adjusted kind of measure as well over there. So how can we realize that? That's going to be very important. I have been reminded by the organizer twice already. We are run out of time. We are very late. So I'm not, I feel sorry that we will not go second round for the discussion with such, expert panel in place. But in the consideration of time, and let me conclude without further overdue for this roundtable number 2. Please join me to thank the 6 panelists one more time. Thank you very much. Yeah. And the floor is Dr. Sandra Milars for the final 5 minutes summary.
Thank you all for staying to the end. So my job is to summarize the last 2.5 hours dialogue in 5 minutes. So I'll do my best. And all I want is for you to take 3 words with you to remember what we discussed this morning. The first is technology, the second is data, and the third is collaboration. Let me explain you why I chose these words. I think they really reflect the discussions today. And I think we start in the very, very early with a picture of the problem that we face. And it's a daring problem. It's one that we are all fighting against. But there is hope. There is very hope. And I think Dr. Suasama really presented today some hope when he talked about viable future scenarios and brought us that, how we can find viable future states. So the reality is that there is hope in how we achieve this challenge of food security under climate challenges. But we need technology. And today we saw first word. And technology comes in many, many forms. We heard so many things that we do have technologies. That's a message of hope as well that exist today to solve some of these problems, like rice self-sufficient in Africa, as one example. And Dr. Babukar talked about the climate smart valleys and how we can do that. And then the problem in this case is more scaling, but some technologies exist, so they are here. But also we talk about the future technology. The technology exists for future. And in this case, I think for me, it was very clear that the technology is responding to the urgency. And the pace of technology is really moving us much faster to find the solutions. We talk about genomics, we talk about gene editing, we talk about AI. And these are new technologies that will allow us to do solutions in much shorter time. When we did the Green Revolution, it was to bring a resistant gene from the wild species into a viable product that the farmers could use would take 2 decades, maybe 3 sometimes, depending how hard it was to move that gene. We don't have 20 years. We might have half of that time, or maybe a third of that time to solve the same similar problems that continue evolving and we continue facing. So we do need technology that allows us to respond much quicker. And we had a message of hope today with genomics, with AI, with gene editing. This technology will allow us to respond. And not only that, I would say that we need to respond looking for green strategies. And Dr. Osamu from JIRCA talk about the green strategy. I use your word, Dr. And it is about, how we do it within this transformation, also with planetary boundaries, using the example of bionitrification in wheat. So technology exists and is accelerating and allowing us to be greener. But for these technologies to work comes the second word, data. Data is so important, especially for AI, especially for gene editing. We need to produce a lot of data before we can make sense of this, before we can use and generate solutions out of these technologies. And here, I think I would say I will use my own creativity and my own input into this. For me, data is the new gold. And when you look at data and it's fragmented, it is still dirty data, it's just coming out of the fields, might not have as much value as gold. When you look at gold as a stone, doesn't have value. But when you mine, when you make a jewelry, it becomes much more value. It does have much more value. But for us to do that, we need the third word, collaborate. Because we are fragmented. I think we heard this in the last panel. We are going, there is a lot more anti-globalization. We are moving towards anti-globalization in many ways, more localization, which brings more fragmentation. But these big problems, because we all share the same roof that is called planet Earth, these big problems won't be solved unless we bring this together, that we are able to share this data, that we are able to look at this comprehensively across boundaries. So how do we do that? I thought, we look at, in many ways, collaboration comes in different forms. Specifically for data, I think we do need institutional frameworks, we need policies, we need to make sure that the data not only gets shared, but also the equity, the fairness of data. And CGIAR has an agenda on that. We do, as the largest public goods enterprise in agriculture, we do look into how we actually make sure that this data also benefits the smallholder farmers, the people who probably have least access to this information. We need to safeguard that as a global innovation forum. I think this is the right place to discuss these things. So anyway, so collaboration is a must, it's no longer a should. We are not asking the question, should. We must, for us to attend to this challenge that we have. In collaboration also comes with how we scale, because the innovations that we have today, in order for us to scale, we do need, complementation. And we need the private sector, we need public-private sector. There is no way the public institutions can scale and make self-sufficient rice. For Africa, as one example, Africa imports $6 billion in rice. And the question is why, with all that land? And it requires investment. That investment will come largely from the private sector. So we do need to work with the institutions, the private sector institutions, to get that accomplished as well. So just to recap, 3 words: technology we have today, and the future technology bring us hope, because we do have the technology to take us to the solutions we need to attain to this big problem. Data is our new gold, and we need to find ways to really have the policies and have the global agreements of how we share the data, how we keep privacy, how we actually attend to equity, gender equity, and ethnicity equity, and so that we look at fairness of data sharing as well. Collaboration is a must. We need to do this for the growth. Technology is a hope, data is the new gold, and collaboration is a must. These are my messages. Thank you.